Rajiv Kumar. Mr. Kumar, many thanks for taking your time out and speaking with us today at ET. Now, let me first begin by asking you on this big announcement that has been made. I was speaking to experts earlier in the day and they did raise questions on the execution. Most importantly, one of the pain points that we have seen in the past to ensure public-private partnership, that one of the big issues that we have seen are the model concession agreements or the concession agreements. How will you ensure that some of these issues are aptly dealt with so that we can get the ball rolling on this big plan that the government has announced today?
Yeah, hi Ruchi, and on you are absolutely right. I mean the real the real focus has to be on implementation and execution of these plans as we go forward. And for that, actually, in Niti Aayog, we have a very strong capability under the PPP vertical that we have, which has had a very long tradition. It was that capability was actually developed and built during the Planning Commission days, and we have inherited and improved upon it. And so, therefore, we have different model concessional agreements which we work with, given the sector specific specifications. But all of these are now very thoroughly vetted. But more importantly, we also will have transactions advisors who will then look into the merit and the conditions and the circumstances of each project or each asset that is being monetized. So to that extent, we are quite sure that with the line ministries and Niti Aayog working together, these model concessional agreements will be sorted out and will be finalized and be able to attract significant investor interest as we go forward. And some of this experience is already there. For example, with the NHAI, who have successfully monetized 17,000 crore worth of their projects already. So you see, I think we are not working from scratch. There is experience now, there is experience in the past, and as I said, to repeat myself, there's a strong capability within the Niti Aayog on designing and framing model concessionary agreements.
Right. In the past, at least for the privatization process as well, we have seen how line ministries in most cases used to delay the processes. Now you have 12 ministries that will be working with the Niti Aayog. How will you ensure that the process would be a seamless one to begin with?
But you must have noticed today, if you were there at the press conference, that the secretaries and the heads of departments of all these 12 ministries were present. And they've all been consulted, and they're all on board, and they've actually agreed, and not just agreed, but they've themselves, in some cases, given the annual targets that they've got, and and some of them are already well into doing their RFPs and the other sort of concessional agreement documents, etc. So for this time, it is the whole of the government approach. Enough homework has been done. And substantial homework has been done to ensure that all of these line ministries are completely on board, and the targets that we've announced today are targets which they have accepted, and in most cases, in fact, in all cases, they've accepted it and sort of given them out themselves. So I don't see any resistance here, from on part of the line ministries, because they are effectively on board.
Mr. Kumar, let me also ask you, the government today has said that these assets will not be sold, and more importantly, these are de-risked brownfield assets that have been put up on the block after due consideration of ministries, of the cabinet secretary, of Niti Aayog as well. But in the past, we have seen that the private sector has really taken it very slow when it comes to putting their money in greenfield assets. What makes you so confident that there will be takers for brownfield assets, especially that are being put on the block as a part of the larger national monetization pipeline?
I mean, Ruchi, you made the distinction yourself. And I think that's the critical distinction between there the greenfield projects and the brownfield projects. The brownfield projects are, as you said, and as is true, are completely de-risked. There is no issues of land acquisition. There is no issue of project risk. There is no issue of financing problems, etc. So all of those risks are already being mitigated and overcome. So I think that's the one big reason for which we have already had a substantial private investor response and an interest in these projects, because that's as the asset monetization program has been prepared. But the other part is that most often the revenue stream coming out of these projects is also quite clear, and the upside risks of those are also pretty much evident. So to that extent, given the revenue assurance and given the riskless nature of these projects, we expect significant private sector interest in these projects as we go forward. And as I said, the PG, the power grid, InvIT rollout has been gathered a lot of interest. Its shares are still doing well, and the NHAI was able to monetize its own assets. So I think based on those experiences and the two conditions that I just mentioned, I am expecting significant private investor interest in this process of asset monetization.
Sir, I want to understand from you, we have seen a lot of success coming our way in terms of monetization of assets in sectors such as road and, of course, the power grid InvITs that are being talked about. So there's a lot of movement there as well. However, we wanted to, get private players in the railway sector, get private parties to run the private trains. There, the whole process has been scrapped. We are back to square one. How will you ensure that we are able to move, with a lot of speed, and we are able to execute it properly without any delays? I do understand that you have a 4-year timeline, but execution again is going to be key here.
I mean, there is no denying the fact that execution is the key. There's also no denying the fact that these are complex subjects. For example, the running of private trains, or the station development programs of the railways, or the pipeline monetization, etc. These are, and these are being tried out for the first time. But there is a lot of lessons and a lot of learning that has already been generated. For example, in the private trains, as you said, we've had one dash at it, and now we've learned some lessons, and now this is being redesigned. So I firmly believe that with all the learning and the commitment that the ministries, the line ministries have given, and the fact that all of them have been taken on board well in advance, and now there'll be regular monitoring of this through the real-time dashboard. I think there is enough. There are enough things now on the ground to ensure that execution will be undertaken in the manner required, and the targets will be achieved. Okay.
Right. Mr. Kumar, I also want to understand from you. Right. Mr. Kumar, I also want to understand from you in terms of course, the scale and size of the investments. How will they be decided? Because we are talking about different sectors, the approach has to be very, very different. So is the government really going to take a uniform approach, or have the transaction advisors, ask the government to look at different models, different approaches, different kind of lease agreements, as well as we're, looking at assets from varied sectors?
Of course, I mean that has got to be it. As we say, horses for courses. Each sector has got its own specificities. Each sector has got its own conditions, circumstances, and so therefore there cannot be any one generic or model or a generic sort of a framework in which all these will be undertaken. And I think because which is for that reason that you've got these transaction advisors who have the sector domain expertise, and the line ministries will work with them to take it forward. So quite undoubtedly, there will be sector-specific approaches for this exercise as it unfolds.
Mr. Kumar, before I let you go, and this is going to be my last question, one of the doyens of the infrastructure sector, Vinayak Chatterjee, in a conversation with me, did say that while this was a big and a bold move by the government, the government has clarified that this is not going to be a clean sale or divestment, but operating concessions, but that's largely PPP by the side door, and that has raised a lot of apprehensions about the market confidence in the PPP processes itself. How will you address some of these challenges that many investors, many people who look at the infrastructure space have with respect to the PPP model?
But I'm not aware, I mean, at least, and I would, I don't know what Vinayak said, and I don't know what the apprehensions are. So therefore, I can't really comment on it. But PPP is now pretty well established. And, India has led the way on this. India has led the way for quite some time. And there are very successful PPP projects that we've taken forward. For example, the airport, PPP models that we've got, they've been very successful. And there are several other examples of that. And so I don't think there are some outstanding or irresolvable issues or apprehensions. And when and if they come up, we'll be ready to face them and take them, address them and take it forward. Because that's the whole idea. So I'm not, just to repeat myself, I'm not fully aware of what these apprehensions are, but I want to reassure everybody that the PPP arrangement, the PPP framework will be done in a manner to make the best possible opportunity for a private investor, so that they are attracted and they bring and they unlock the value in these projects, because that's the idea. The idea is that there are all these assets which can earn a lot more than what they're earning at the moment, and therefore this is truly a very bold admission and statement by the government, and I'm sure that the private investors will be attracted. Yeah.
Mr. Kumar, this is going to be my last question very quickly. I just want to understand from you, what is the target that the government has set for itself for this year in terms of monetization? We have about 6 months left. The process has been announced today. What kind of monetization are we looking at for this year itself?
You got me there, Ruchi. I should have this figure on my tips, but I don't. It was announced this morning for this year, every year's target. But clearly there is a build-up that this year is much less than the next year. And for example, the 7,000 crore target for the power grid transmission has already been achieved, and that remains the same for next year. So I'm not sure the total one, but it's available in the presentation that was made by the CEO Niti Aayog, and I request you to please have a look at it. I don't have the aggregate figure at the moment on my.
Okay, that's all right. Okay,
yeah.
sir.
Thank you.